And then we try to improve it. And then you have TQM and Six Sigma, where we use the mic, define, measure, analyze. This time, with Six Sigma, we try to use numbers, statistics, statistical analysis, right? So, which is powerful. It's a powerful tool. Actually, in BPM, we use Six Sigma as one of the tools, because it doesn't, it's not like, it can't solve everything. It's good. Six Sigma can capture variations in processes. But the flip side of it, Six Sigma, from our study, is that it doesn't capture positive deviance. It only captures negative deviance, or any deviations at all. Any deviations, it's negative. It's wrong. But then there are also positive deviance. That's a different topic, actually. So that's Six Sigma. And then you have BPR, Business Process Reengineering, which is totally different from BPM. Well, BPM started from BPR. What is BPR? Where if there's a deficiency in the process, BPR is radical approach. Totally destroy the process, erase it, or don't use it, let's build a new one. Right? So the problem with BPR in that kind of approach, it's very expensive, right? Because you have to take out all of the processes and then build everything. Imagine the training, right? The mind setting, change in paradigm. So that's why it became unpopular. And then 1990s, again, you have workflow management. This is where IT came, okay? Realized that, okay, we have processes, let's try to automate it. So workflow, okay? Workflow, we try to use, we trigger, every time a process is executed, we automate it. We automate it, right? And the flip side of it, workflow management, people were so excited that they tried to automate everything. Even some of the process activity which is not needed to automate. How can you automate management approval? Right? I mean, when you talk about large amount of money, large sum of money, approval process, like 5 million and up, you just can't automate that easily. Right? So there's a lot of governance, management governance who handles it. Although you can come up with rules, business rules on it, for it, but then again, not everything can be automated using workflow management. All right. So again, summary, there are many tools. Okay? We just use what we think can benefit our organization for BPM. Okay? And it's about, BPM is about managing and improving the processes, right? So if your team, they're trained in Six Sigma, you've invested in Six Sigma, let's leverage Six Sigma. If we're good in lean management, let's leverage lean management. We'll just have to complement it with other tools, other techniques. Okay? Don't throw whatever you have in terms of process. Okay, so now we're going to look at the life cycle. Okay? The BPM life cycle starts with process identification. Okay? The output of process identification is the process architecture, which is part of enterprise architecture. And then you have process discovery, analysis, redesign, implementation, controlling. We'll go one by one. Okay? Process identification. What is it? So in a process identification, there are two steps basically: designate and evaluate. In designation, this is where we create the architecture, the process architecture. Now, if I'm going to ask you, okay, you have processes, okay? Do you have a process architecture? Do you have a blueprint of all your processes in the organization? The usual answer is, no, we don't have. In every department, yes, we have. But the enterprise, do you have the process? Okay, is there someone or department handling that? If not, then it's about time. It's not too late, but you need to. You need to. Okay, so, and then evaluation is process portfolio. What is process architecture? Process architecture, in the very basic sense of it, you have the source, your suppliers, partners, and then you have your customers, stakeholders. You have your core process. So if I'm the DFA, what's my core process? My core process would be to issue passport, to renew passport. All right. So DTI, you have your own core process. Okay, based from the business, based from the terms of reference, what's assigned for that department. So that would be your core processes, and it should be documented. I mean, at least everybody should know. Okay, and the core process, it can't exist on by itself, so it has to be supported by the support processes. You have HR, you have these are internal HR, financial, okay, and then you have other support services, IT would be part of it. Not unless your company is IT, your core process is IT services, IT delivery, IT infrastructure. But since your department or agency is delivering something, usually IT is in the support. Okay? And then you have management processes. Examples. This is just an example of some of the processes. So sign contracts, evaluate vendors, establish sourcing, and that could be even part of management processes. Vendor relationship, that could be part of it. It provides direction, rules, and practices. Fill order processes, the very basic of it, receive order, approve, fill order, that's your core. Okay? Again, this is just an example. It may be different from your department and office. And then you have support services like stock supplies, order supplies, receive supplies. Alright? So this is an example from Western Australia, Water Corporation. So this is, if you're going to look at it, it's bare, right? But it's okay. But at least, you know, they've started categorizing everything. So you have your management processes, okay, business management, knowledge management, and then you have your core. You notice in the core you have clean water, waste and surplus water, right? Land development and management. These are the core for the Water Corporation. And then you have the support processes, finance, HR. If you're going to look at this, this is a picture, a grand picture, a map. Okay? In your enterprise architecture, you can even start from this. Start from this. If you have the processes, try to categorize some of these processes. Because there's value in having a map, having a process architecture. If there's a new direction from management, you look at your map. How will it affect or impact our architecture? Right? If there's a new innovation, a new technology, how will it impact our overall strategy if we change some of the processes here? So you see, you have a point of reference. Another example, this is very small. Don't worry about it. This is from Bank of Queensland, from Australia again. Well, actually, when they gave this to us, they made it a point that we cannot read it. It's IP, it's intellectual property. But they just want to show us that they did it. It's complex. Oh, it's complex though. So you have here 4 levels. So you have 0 is the whole. This is 1, 2, 3, right? So it really depends on what level, right? You're going to dive into your processes. But then what's important is that everybody can use this as a point of reference. So you have their management processes, the core, meaning if you see this kind of core, meaning they are delivering many services. Innovation, I believe innovation is really predominant in this company because you create services, okay, different types of services. And then you have the support processes. So that's process architecture. In the process portfolio, this is just very basic. So let's say if you have different processes from different organization, department, you just have to, portfolio is really prioritizing what processes are we going to work on or what are the processes that's important for your organization. So it's looking about the health of your processes and the importance. It's important, this process is important, but it's not working properly. So meaning maybe that's a priority for me. So it's really about prioritization. Okay. And in terms of metrics, how do we measure processes? So these are some of the metrics. So the basic, cost, time, and quality. So cost, you have cost per execution. When we execute our process, what's the cost involved? So you talk about people, how many staffs are involved in the process, what are the resources that I use, that I need to execute it. Resource utilization and waste. How fast can they do their work? Okay? So it doesn't mean that they're there 8 hours, but 8 hours, is that really productive time? Maybe 2 hours is productive, right? And 6 hours is not. But then we have to look at it as well. Maybe 6 hours is research, okay? Or ideation, thinking, all right? Cycle time, waiting time, non-value adding. So these are some of the quality metrics for processes. So that's process identification. For discovery, so now you have a process architecture. Okay, assuming you have already a process architecture. The next thing that you do is, especially in your organization that's already existing, you have your process, is to identify what process you have. And that's through discovery. So there's a step. Define the setting, gathering information. How do you do that? How do I know your process? If I'm someone external from your organization, agency, I go to your organization, and then I do some of this. I do document analysis, I observe, I do automatic process discovery. We have a different session about that later. We have interview-based and workshop-based for me to understand your process, besides reading your document. So I may need to do a series of interviews to understand, just for me to capture what are your processes. Okay? So what? If I capture your process, what's the next step? We model it. We model. So this is part of BPM. This is not BPM, but this is part of BPM. Process modeling. So what aspect? There are 3 aspects. So control flow. What are the flow? What are the flow of the process? Next would be, what are the objects, physical and electronic, that we produce or we use? Okay? And then, who's doing the work? Who are the actors? Finance department, you have the senior, and then you have the ERP. So that's a system, right? So it could be system, or it could be someone, all right? Now the question is, do you have this kind of model, right? Some, it's okay, you have a flow chart. It could be PowerPoint, or it could be visual. That's okay. But what I'm using here is, for BPM, there's a standard modeling notation. We call it BPMN. Okay? Business Process Modeling Notation. So we use this. And it's one language. It's international. So it's actually created by OMG, okay? An international body, organization, who promotes this kind of modeling. And it's used all throughout in IT. And some of what it looks like is this. Okay, as simple as this. Or it could be as complex as that. Or this. It may look like an architecture diagram, but it's just very basic. It's very basic. Once you know, like for example, this is a decision. It's an or, right? So you have a question here. It's an or. If it's a yes or a no, if it's a yes, I'll go here, and it ends. If it's a no, I'll go here, and then it goes there. Da-da-da. Okay, that's just or. There are different gateways. We call it gateways. It could be an or it could be an and. An and could be 2 activities executing together. Okay? And that's that training on business process modeling. That's a separate module all throughout. I cannot teach you in 2 hours. Right? So, but then that's, it could be a day or 2 just for you to understand the notation, and we look and dive into your processes. So that's discovery. So assuming you already captured the as-is, the current process. So we have the architecture, we captured as-is using BPMN. So it's good, okay, that we captured it. Now the next step is analysis. Okay, how do we improve it? How do we improve our process? Process analysis. In the life cycle, this is the third. There are two ways of doing it, qualitative and quantitative. In qualitative, we do value-added analysis where we look at, well, we could apply lean management here. We look at each activities in the process model and, just discuss. We can discuss, we can get information. Are they providing value? Are they waste? So we need to eliminate that. Process of elimination. Or RCA, root cause analysis. I'm sure you're familiar with cause effect diagram or Ishikawa or fishbone, right? Okay. And then you have YY diagrams, which is basically just asking why, and then there's an answer, and then you ask again why, up to the point that you arrive at the very specific cause of the issue. Issue documentation and quantitative process analysis. So this is an example of cause and effect diagram. You have an issue, and then you try to classify some of the causes of the issue based from the 6: machine, material, measurement, milieu or environment, or man or method or process. And then you have the reason, and then you ask again what the cause of it. And then it actually builds. It looks like a fishbone, right? The founder is from Japanese Ishikawa, right? And then you have pick chart. Pick chart is just looking at your processes, and then let's say, how do we improve it? These are the things that we need to improve our processes. But then you plot it in terms of difficulty and payoff. So, like for example, this is very difficult, but the payoff is very high. So you really want to get this. You want to get this, but you have to look at your resources. Maybe not all, right? Maybe top 3. Okay, but because it's very difficult, but the payoff is very high. Right? So the value that it provides the organization is very high. So you want that. This is ideal. Oh, sorry. There you go. Yeah. And then of course you want the ideal is difficulty not too much. It's not difficult, but the payoff is high. Right? That's your holy grail. That's your sweet spot. Actually, okay. But some of our organization, well, especially the government, it's challenging. Okay, it's difficult because it involves a lot of organizations and agency, but the payoff is good. Just like our DICT initiative, which is basically consolidating the data information. So we'll have one ID, national ID, or one information. But then it means traversing different agencies, right? It needs cooperation, but the payoff is very high because it provides value. Because I think like Australia has its own, the US, they have their own. We still don't have, but I think we can. We're capable. We have brilliant people from different agencies. We just have to work together. Okay. So process analysis, that's where you analyze it. Okay, so we may use Six Sigma there for control flow or even statistical analysis. And then once you've identified what are the costs, what are the issues, which processes, and then this is where you redesign. So earlier we have the as is. Okay, we know the problem, and then we redesign. Redesign. This is a lot of activity involved here, which is, I like this part because this is where innovation comes in. Okay? So process redesign, you have as is, and then you have your to be. Okay? And this is where innovation comes in, innovative creativity. And I just want to show this to you. I use this is a Kano model, and basically used in product development. But here, what I'm trying to say here is that BPM, ambidextrous, left and right, it could be exploitation of processes. So meaning you have a process already. If you're going to look at your processes right now, you're trying to solve it. You look at problem. So in this line, in this red line, you're looking at, this is your hygiene factor. Just like, for example, you build the one ID system, national ID system. If we have it already, what do you think would be the reaction of the people? Would they say wow? Or would they say finally? They just say finally it's there. But would they say wow? Right? The wow factor is in the blue line. That's where you wow your customers. The red line is really hygiene factor. You need to fix it, so it needs to be fixed. Like just like when you call your telecom mobile, like even Smart or Globe, you have an issue. Okay, in your house you cannot call. There's no signal, and then next day it's good because the telecom went there and fixed it. What will you say? Will you say wow? You'll say finally they fixed it. Right? That's the red line. That's exploitation of processes. Incremental improvement. It's problem seeking, problem opportunity. Unlike on the blue line, your exploration. You explore processes. This is opportunity rich environment. Okay? Like what I showed you earlier about the restaurant. It's changing the business model, changing processes. This is exploration of processes. This is hard, this is difficult, but yet there are frameworks for you to use to come up with exploration. Ambidextrous meaning, what does it mean? You can't just work on exploitation and disregard exploration. For example, if you work on exploitation, just like Kodak, they're very efficient in their processes. They're good in delivering, but they became irrelevant. Right? Digital camera came. They did not adapt. So it's not also good if you look at exploration of processes. You innovate all the time. You look at new ideas. Just like Suncorp in Australia. Suncorp, they innovate. They have new ideas. But then, the next day or the week after, I think it happened November 2017, all of their ATMs, people cannot process. Right? They were innovating to the point that they failed to look at their normal operation process. So ambidextrous is really looking at both. Okay, both. So it has to be you do your hygiene, your normal operation, but at the same time forward looking. What are the new things out there? What can we learn? So exploitative is really looking at the process. It doesn't question your architecture, your process architecture. It doesn't question it, but it tries to improve it, incrementally improve it, continuous improvement. Unlike exploration, you ask the assumption, the basic assumption of your architecture, right? It's really asking about, are we doing the right thing? Is this our business model? Is this our core process? Okay? So it's not really about inefficiencies, but it's more of breakthrough innovation. So I'll show you, exploitative, the redesign. So there's some process involved. So these are the process steps. And I believe the slides will be shared to you as well, so don't worry. So it's really more about, there's a step process in capturing the as is. Okay? And then do some change options. But in terms of redesign, there are patterns, okay, in BPM. There are different patterns. So now that I know my as-is process, what will I improve? How can I incrementally improve? So like for example, eliminate. So you see there's 2 here, but we took it out. We don't need it. So this is a pattern. Eliminate a process activity. And then you have replace. Okay? So it could be also change, right? So there's 2 here, but I replace it by 4. So these are different patterns that you can use. And there's a lot more. This is just a snippet. Okay, so this is process redesign. Exploration, redesign, this is transformational. Okay? This is where innovation, creativity comes in. And there's a process for that. Don't worry. It doesn't mean that if you're not Steve Jobs, if you're not Bill Gates, I don't know how to innovate. No, there's a methodology. And simplistically, we call it process innovation. Okay? We can jump this one. We use the four thinking style of process innovation. In the process innovation, we have enhance, derive, design, and utilize. What's enhance? I showed it to you. Enhance is really looking at your current practices, current process, and you think in patterns. I showed you the patterns. What can we improve? What patterns can we exchange and utilize? Okay, or use rather. That's enhance. The fundamental, the very basic. The next is derive. Derive is learning from others. So you're in the government, but maybe we can learn something from the bank. Or maybe we can learn from the airlines or from the telecom. So meaning you need to do some research, environmental scanning. Maybe there are some best practices from those industry that we can use. Just like, for example, this is a Qantas. This is an airline in Australia, Qantas card. And then this is like Woolworths, just like our SM department store. So Qantas, they have their loyalty card. This is a very basic example. A loyalty card where passengers, whenever they get, they book the tickets, so the airline knows about these passengers. So they predict, they provide some solutions to them. They provide services. So it's really about preemptive, right? Preemptive. So Woolworths, traditional supermarket, it leveraged that. So now they have their own card. So whenever customers go to the department store, scanned, so there's a screen monitor, then they'll tell you, hello Gerald, how's your day today? So maybe you need to go to this store, you need to go to this, you need to buy some coffee, something like that. So it customizes, it detects you. So it learned that from the airline. So that's derive, okay? Design, utilize. Utilize is really about tapping into underutilized assets. So any resources, any asset, it could be your resources, the people, or it could be your physical assets. One example here may look like a road. I know it's very small, but this is like a Walmart. Walmart is like an RSM in the US. This is a parking lot in Walmart. Before, management realized that at night, the parking lot is empty, right? It's empty, it's just there. It's underutilized asset. But then they realized that surrounding that Walmart store, there are BPO companies. So what they did was, they leveraged it. So, meaning at night, they opened it for BPO. So they're able to get some funds on, they earn from that initiative. So you have your own underutilized assets or resources in the organization. You just need to identify it. So that's utilize. And there are some patterns here as well, and also from derive that you can learn. The Holy Grail definitely is design. This is where like the Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, it's a sound system in general, right? I don't know. I didn't do anything. Anyway, I'll try to minimize moving. Okay, so design is really co-ideate with your customer. So it's customer driven. So this is where design thinking comes in. UX. I know you'll have a UX discussion this later. It's about engaging with customers and coming up with innovative products. So again, that's process innovation. Alright, sige. Sorry about that. Okay, so this is an example of ideation process. Okay. So an example, CBA, Commonwealth Bank of Australia.
The future of mobile payments is here. Now you can get square with your mates with CommBank Kaching by using your mobile, email, or Facebook contacts. You can even use it to pay on the go, wherever contactless payments are accepted. It's all totally secure. Let's take a look at how easy it is. So I owe my best mate some money. She's just bought us tickets for tonight's gig. I'm paying her back right now, just using her email address. I select the email payment icon, choose the person I'm paying, click on her email address, then click on the amount tab. Then I enter the amount I owe her and click done. Next, I go to descriptions and either choose an existing one or enter my own. Then I hit pay and confirm the details. Sorted. So now that I've paid her back, a payment code comes up on the screen, which I can copy and paste into an SMS and send to her. Right now, she's been sent an email telling her I paid her back through CommBank Kaching. I'll see the payment waiting in the uncollected screen until she collects it, which she just has to do within 14 days. So now we're square.
Another one, another example.
I'd like to introduce a Qantas customer service agent, Paula. If there's more you'd like to know about any part of this new process, Paula will be on hand to help you. First up, you would have received or will be receiving in the future your new frequent flyer card, complete with an intelligent queue chip. This will replace your existing frequent flyer card. With next generation check-in, this will be all you need to check in at the airport and board your flight. If you haven't already checked in online or using your mobile, all you need to do is touch your card at a cue card reader like this, and you'll be checked in. Your frequent flyer card is now your boarding pass. An SMS will also be sent to your registered mobile number with your flight details. Got a special request, need assistance, or need to make a change to your booking? No problem. Our friendly customer service agents are on hand at a kiosk or the premium service desk to help you out. You can also use the premium service desk to check in the traditional way, if you prefer.
All right. There you go. Those are examples that, some of the possibilities. I'm not promoting both either, okay? But then what they can do, like for example, very basic like a loyalty card, that kind of capability, we don't have that yet, right? Although that's, it could be like a year ago, technology, and even the mobile one, I know we can also do that. But of course, we need to build the infrastructure, policies, right? And the governance, definitely. And that's part of the process. Part of BPM actually. So now that you've redesigned, assuming you've redesigned your processes already, based from insights, based from the methods that we've used and discussed. So you need to implement it. So this is where IT comes in. Process implementation is really about process automation. Okay, this is where business process automation comes in. It's really about the use of technology components to substitute or supplement manual processes. Again, to supplement, all right? It's not a replacement. It supplements the process. So technology is not just for the sake of technology, you have it in your organization, but it should deliver the process end to end, right? So, and then of course, it manages the information flow based from the process. And as I mentioned earlier, 1990s, you have workflow, but still workflow is the fundamental concept in automation. And it's really about automation of business processes. It could be the whole business processes or just part of it that you've identified. But we need to identify what we need to automate. Because there are some of the process that we can't get rid of, like checking policies. There's some policies that we need to, there's a manual intervention. Not until we change the policy, the rules, we can't get away with it. So we need to execute it. But that's okay. Maybe that's version 2 or version 3, right? But for now, we look at ways or some activities that we can automate. An example workflow system is like what we have here. You have a workflow system, and all of your other systems like CRM, ERP, HR applications are connected to the workflow. Why do we need to do that? So we have to ensure that the end-to-end business process is traversed or executed. Because you may need some information from the ERP, you may need some information from CRM system, which feeds to your process model. You have to make sure. It doesn't mean that, I have an ERP, I'm good. No, no. You have to really look at your enterprise as a whole. Because HR may have an input there. Although maybe you can input it in the ERP. The ERP has its own workflow. But then, as long as it covers the whole process in your organization. This is a framework, a reference framework for workflow. You'll have a copy of this, basically. But a workflow basically has these basic components. You have the process modeling tool, which actually you can use BPM in here. And then you put that, the output of it, you put it here, and then it executes that model. So there are some tools that the model that you use, BPMN, it actually creates an executable. And then you can execute it here using workflow engine. An example, again, I'm not promoting something. This is more of my experience. An example would be IBM WebSphere. I've used it. So I've used BPEL, Business Process Execution Language. So instead of BPMN, we use BPEL. So we use BPEL to model the process, and then we run it, we save it, and then we put it in the engine. And the engine runs your process. And then, of course, it connects to different systems, different work engine. And that's part of the workflow management system. Okay? That's just an example. So, process implementation, you did that. So now that your process is executing, it's running. Maybe you have your own system right now. It's already running. But how do you monitor them? Right? How do you monitor your process is actually being executed or is used? How do you monitor your process? This is where process monitoring and controlling comes in. Okay? In process monitoring, you monitor runtime. Okay? So runtime meaning while your process or your system is running, so you have dashboards. Okay, my server is running, that's one. But then how do you monitor in real time your process? Okay? And then you have process analytics. But process analytics is where, like, maybe this is where data mining comes in. So transactions, it runs your website maybe, and then after a month or after 6 months, you try to analyze, right? You try to look at your data. Okay, so people are using this, you're doing analytics, so that's process analytics. But in BPM, there is an emergent technology that I'm using, that I'm actively advocating right now. It's process mining. You mine processes, okay? Because you have ERP system, you have CRM. All of this have databases. All events, all activities are saved in your database. What process mining does is extract some of this data and then determines whether, are they compliant with the process? What are deviations of the process? What is process mining? It's a branch of data science that provides tools and techniques, okay, for modeling and analysis using event logs. Take note, event logs, okay? An example, although it's kind of small, an example is a typical clinical visit, outpatient clinic visit, like when you go to your clinic for physical exam, yearly physical exam. So you're the patient, you go, okay, so you do your blood check, you do your x-ray. So every time you do this activity, it's documented, be it manual, some have manual, and some have an HIS, an Health Information System, okay? So all of these activities, it's all documented here. Your vital statistics, your blood work, your x-ray, and whatever tests or studies you have. So you have it. It's all documented. And from the database, you extract an event log. Okay? An event log, a summary of your activity. Okay? And then, using the event log, you can ask some question. Some of the questions ask, what is the typical outpatient process flow? So meaning, from this event log, I will know if this is the process that I'm doing, okay, I'm executing. What caused the long waiting list? So you realize that there's a wait list. The wait is so long, right? But using this event log, you will detect what are the costs of that wait time. Okay? Some of the question, is it possible to handle 10 new cases in time? So if I'm going to add 10 cases, 10 patients, or 15 patients, what will happen to the process? And does it help to do this test concurrently? So you can do innovation, you can do some simulation. So process mining is used in banking and finance, hardware, maintenance, manufacturing, government agencies, which I'm doing right now in CSC, and healthcare. So in a gist, what is process mining? Okay? Oh, before we go there. So in summary, what you need is an event log. This is just an event log. And the basic element that you need, a case ID. Just an ID of your all processes, okay? A timestamp. You need a timestamp. So every time you, let's say you had your blood work, x-ray, there's a date timestamp. We need that for process analysis. And then activities. What is that activity? Here, my example is first visit, you have a surgery, second visit, radiotherapy, chemotherapy. This is extreme, right? So evaluate, okay? So this is an example of an activity.
Imagine a manager of a credit card application process at a bank. Customers can order a card in a local branch or online. Then an employee verifies the application and a risk manager conducts a credit check. If the card gets approved, it is sent out. The problem is that customers start going to other banks because they are faster. His numbers show that 90% of the applications take more than 9 days. But why does it take so long? Process mining takes existing data records from your IT systems as a starting point, extracts the different variations of the process, and automatically turns them into understandable visualizations of your process. Because existing IT records are the basis for process mining, you get an objective visualization of the real process. For example, it shows remarkable deviations, unnecessary rework, and the real bottlenecks. Very quickly, the manager has found the actual root causes of the problem, and customers get their cards now in less than 5 days. Process mining is real and available in mature software tools today.
Process mining has been applied in hundreds of organizations in areas such as banking, telecommunications, and healthcare. It is also a very exciting field for researchers to develop new techniques that have a direct business value for professional users.
Visit processmining.org to learn more about process mining and download software, papers, and presentations.
Actually, that Professor Alves, he's my professor at QUT, and he's the founder of process mining. And now he's back in Germany. He's actually proliferating it there. So my objective is to showcase process mining, because there's a lot of things that we can do with process mining, which I'm doing with CSC in their program Prime HRM. I know you're familiar with Prime HRM. Okay, so Prime HRM version 2, which is the web application, they'll release it, they'll launch it. So now I'm trying to understand how fast can organization be accredited or awarded or recognized. Okay, what takes time? All right, so I'm using process mining. So the framework of process mining is very simple. So in the real world, this my example is like a sports car. In the real world, you have a sports car, okay? And definitely a sports car, they have like an IT system inside. There's a system. Some cars, they're very intelligent where it tells you before you bump another car. Or let's say if your tire is about to deflate, it gives you an alarm. So there's a system inside, okay? So every time this system, the car does something, it documents, it records it, a database, okay? And through the event log, okay? This is the event log. This is your database, for example. And then from this information, you discover, okay? You get information, and then you model it. Is my model now look at this model. Is it the same with my sports car? So you can do comparison. Is my model the same with my real world car? Right? So the same with processes. I'll get your event log based from your database information, and then I will discover the process. Now, this is what you documented your process. This is the actual based from evidence. So there's a discrepancy, variation, but it doesn't mean it's wrong, right? In Six Sigma, as I mentioned earlier, if there's deviation, that's totally wrong. So we have to correct everything to comply with the standard. But in BPM, you look at all angles. Maybe it's wrong, maybe it's more efficient, it's shorter, okay, it's deviant, it's deviation, there's a deviation in the process, but it may be better, right? So maybe we can change our current process. And then you have conformance. Well, you discover the process and then you conform, you try to conform whether my model is the same. And then you an extension. Oh, sorry about it. Extension is really about enhancing. Now that I know that I have deviation, I enhance it. Okay? So, this is an example of process mining in action. I used the hospital information from the US. Of course, I need to undergo a security data protection exam before I was able to get this hospital information. So, this is an ICU. I was able to get information. Of course, this is the when they enter the ICU and then they get discharged from ICU. Here, we have a straightforward process, which is good. Sometimes, if you have a bottleneck, there's a cycle here. There is, let's say, a rework. It goes around and around here. And that's where you need to investigate. So this is a good tool for you to use. In terms of tool support, there's an open source, complete in terms of algorithms, but of course, it's complete, highly complex as well to use, right? There's a commercial version involved. So if you have any questions about process mining, just ask me later. Process monitoring and controlling. So in summary, you have event data, and then you put it in the database. You do process mining, and then you have dashboards, model-based analysis, okay, analytics. Here you will know. Here is an example of red, and it goes back. There's rework here. So this is an area for you to investigate further, okay? But the good thing about it is evidence-based, okay? You don't have to undergo multiple workshops, interview, just for you to know where's the bottleneck, okay? So it's evidence-based. So that's process monitoring and controlling. And in an organization, you have to execute the life cycle, the BPM life cycle, to ensure that your processes are healthy in the organization. So, from architecture, you discover your process, you analyze it, and then you redesign based on the analysis, you execute, you implement. While implementing it, you monitor. Maybe you can use process mining. And then it goes again. Okay, so it's cyclical. Alright? So for you to do that though, you need to have a framework, a BPM framework. That was what I showed you was the life cycle framework of BPM. But don't worry, we're not going to discuss each of this. But what I'm trying to show you, this is the overall framework of BPM that I'm using or we advocate. So IT and method is just 2 of the 6. So you can see here the strategic alignment, there's governance, there's people and culture, which is part of BPM. So meaning if I'm going to put a process in place in my organization end to end, I would have to look, am I aligned? Am I aligned to the strategy of the organization or to the government, to the executive, or from the president? Is my projects or core competence or core processes aligned to the government, 5 to 10 year plan? And how do we ensure that people or the organization are executing the processes? What are the governance, what are the policies? What are the policies that we put in place? If there are deviations in the processes, What do we do? So that's part of governance. Okay. Method would be, what are your methodology in creating processes, in analyzing processes? IT, we know, IT here, if you notice, they're the same. Whatever is the method here, the same with IT, which makes sense because whatever is the method here, IT automates it or finds a way to automate it. Okay, so they go hand in hand. People and culture. I'm also stressing this in BPM is that when I put an IT, when I put an automation or a process, I just let it be. No, in BPM, you have to look at people. Because especially when you improve the process, there's that negative connotation that you displace people. Right? You displace people. You become efficient to the point that people are thinking, if the process is efficient, my activity might not be, my involvement is not needed. Right? Then, you have to be innovative. You may need to retrain the person, retool the person to be now knowledge thinker. Instead of a doer, knowledge thinker. Something like that. So now that's underutilized. So you need to utilize them for more, for something productive. Innovation. Culture. This is the hard part in BPM. I think in all organizations. Like for example, building the process culture, the process mindset culture takes time. But it starts from governance, good methodology. Of course, you need the support of your boss, the secretary, or the executive. Their support. You put the rules and policies in place. Then you execute through methods and information technology. You retrain the people, and then now the culture will just happen. Okay. Of course, you do some change management. That's where culture comes in. Change management. You support them with different programs. So all of this, 6 factors of BPM are needed. Okay. So you have to consider also, like, not only BPM, whenever you execute enterprise architecture as well, you have to look at this facet as well. It doesn't mean that, yay, EA, TOGAF, this is good. But you have to look at the impact of people, the impact of culture. Is the organization ready for EA? Or maybe we need to change the term EA. Okay? Some insights on that. So we use CMMI for the quality maturity of BPM from initial stage to optimizing. So there's a way to measure the BPM capability, the process capability of your organization. Maybe you're at the repeatable. The worst case would be initial state, but that's okay. But at least just think about, if you have an idea, if you plan to improve your process, there's a path. Okay? It's never too late. And again, this is the description. We'll share this, don't worry about it, the details. An example, I just want to showcase an example of the of BPM in Suncorp in Australia. Like, this is a very big company, insurance company in Australia, top 29 million customers. 9 million is big, given that Australians, how many are they? 25 million only? They're not even 30 million. And then you have 16,000 employees and 85 billion in assets. So the thing about Suncorp is that it acquired different kinds of company, okay, to be relevant. So then products and brands it acquired, okay. So with that, in the process itself, in the end-to-end insurance process from product development to claim, normally 500 tasks or activities. And then you multiply that to 30 variations, assuming there are 30 products and services, 30 variations. Now you have 3,000 processes, variants, okay, variations. How do you execute it? Okay, how do you manage it? So they call QUT, the university, to look at their processes within. So some of the challenges: lack of training, convention. So they're not using conventions or to model their tools, okay, to model their processes. And then lack of management support, okay, no support for processes, so there's no buy-in from management itself, okay. And then lack of tool support to achieve simplification. How do we simplify? Okay? And this is a very powerful analysis. So QT came in, we did process mining, and then this is the data that we were able to get. Normally, expected performance line is this, okay? And in the claim process, there's a simple and quick claim. Simple claim, like maybe just like $500 to $1,000. That's a quick, it should be quick, simple and quick. This is what's expected. So this is simple and quick, which is good. Okay. And this one, this is hard but long, but it's okay. So this is desired. No? You expect this. Okay? You expect, because it's hard and the claim is higher, like millions or thousands. And that's okay. That's okay. Good. This is good. But this one is bad. Why? This is supposed to be a simple claim, but it is slow. It's taking them too slow. Okay? So the objective of the team is to find the process. Why are there so many claims? It should be simple, but a lot. All right? A lot are not achieving the desired result. So based from that, we were able to discover that this is the normal simple claim and quick, simple claim and slow. But if you're going to look at it, look at this. There is a rework. There are reworks here. Okay, so a point to investigate. So we investigated on that, and we discovered that there's some processes. People are not trained well. Okay, they're not following the process. Okay, using process analysis, visual analytics, process mining. Okay, this one, you can see here, we call it squiggly worm. If it's very big, then it's very slow, meaning you need to investigate, right? So you may need to add throughput here, bandwidth, so that the process can execute fully. Okay? So with that, from 30 to 60 days to process an insurance, now it's only 1 to 5 days, based on the analysis of process mining. So really, you need to investigate on processes, how to execute it. So, influence with facts and figures why BPM excellence is necessary. So, we created a good environment for Suncorp, and they appreciate BPM through process mining. So, what's the value proposition for you in your agency in terms of processes? Where do you think BPM can come in? How do we improve processes? Okay? I think that's about it. My reference, reading, and questions. Okay. Right. Any questions you may have? There's a lot of information about BPM, but I have to squeeze it in 2 hours. Okay?
Any questions po?
Any questions?
We have the mic there, so para ano po, if you have a question.
Anything, kahit ano, sa process in your organization. Yes.
Hi, sir. Can you please go more into in-depth for the process mining? If I was you, because from what I saw, you had graphs there or process flows.
Yes.
I'd like to know how you came up with that, because like I handle a hospital, so if I wanted to find out where the delay in the processing of certain patients were, I can easily pull out logs, but I didn't get from your presentation how I could convert those logs into the graphical
Correct.
output that you showed.
All right. Thank you. All right. Okay. Process mining, in all industry, healthcare is always the difficult part, right? Why? Because like, especially like just emergency department, ER, no? ER, when the patient comes in, there is no one process flow that a nurse or attendant will use. Of course, they have some guides, and using the guides, they will execute some of the activities, but there is no one specific that they will just follow all throughout, because it depends on the patient's vital statistics and everything. Okay, so now back to the question. In a normal sense, right now, without process mining, what do? we get information from your database, okay, and then we do data mining, right? We do data mining. The problem with data mining is that it takes us time because we need to create relationship between activities. We need to create relationship, right? The beauty about process mining is that there is already a connection between activities. So there's a tool. So meaning, once, let's say, a patient goes into the ER, you capture the name, the time the patient comes in, what's the next activity, you capture the time and date. Using just that, using those information, we plug that into a tool, right? And then it will generate this process flow. There are different algorithms that we use, right? So a common is alpha algorithm, and then it will provide you a high-level view of end-to-end processes. But what's important, the key here is that there's time, date and time for the patient. There's an activity, okay? And in healthcare, the thing about healthcare is that we obfuscate the name, right? Just for data privacy. We take out the name and even the birth date and address of the person. We just get just the date and information, and then we create a log. Before we even use a tool, we create that event log. Because in a normal hospital information system, in the database, there's no event log there. So we get different tables. Technically speaking, we get different tables from a database, and then we extract and create an event log. So there's some filtering, there's some dicing that needs to be done, data processing that needs to be done prior to come up with an event log. And then once you have an event log, it's very easy, plug and play to a tool. But the key here is building that event log, okay? And building that event log would entail 5, 10 database or 10 tables, right? For me to come up with that healthcare visualization, I use 26 tables from the whole database, okay? 26 tables, I need to know what fields, right? What fields. But again, I wasn't able to stress, process mining for healthcare, especially healthcare hospital, there's a lot of processes. So now I need to ask you, if I go there as a consultant and let's say build that for you, I would have to ask you, what are the questions you're trying to find answer, right? Because there's a lot, right? I need to know because I need to scope what tables I need to use, okay? All right? And lastly, for the enterprise architecture event this Thursday, Friday, I'll be presenting also. But my presentation is very specific on process mining. All right, so I may have some examples there as well, right? And tools. All right, cool. Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I am looking into the life cycle that you presented, but I could not see on the evaluation aspect.
Evaluation.
Of the cycle, yes, of course, on the process, because we need to evaluate, on the process.
When you say evaluate on the process, evaluate whether the process is executed efficiently. All right, that's part of the process analysis, right? So actually, okay, so you analyze your process, and then it could be process analysis and monitoring, process monitoring and controlling. So in the process monitoring and controlling, process mining is one of the tools. But traditionally, what you do is you look at your data analytics, right? Or you can do interviews. The traditional way is interview, right? Let's say, for example, you see, like you're supposed to, in terms of KPI, in a week's time, let's say for the Department of Foreign Affairs, you need to deliver, let's say, 100 passports, new passports in a week. But you're not hitting that, so you need to investigate. So it's more of interview process.
So there is still evaluation.
Sorry?
There is still evaluation.
There's still evaluation, right? There's still evaluation. But what process mining does, if I may, what process mining does is it shortcuts the identification where of the process is having problem, right? Because the thing is, if it's just evaluation and interview, multiple layers, right? Multiple layers until you arrive to a specific cause. Process mining cuts that multiple layer and then look at the specific cause.
Another question.
Sure.
You presented about the Queen's Bank of Australia
Yes.
with so many complicated diagram over there.
Yes.
Do we need to give information to all the people in the organization that this is the organization and this is the process?
To the people, you mean? To the
To the whole of people in the organization.
sorry, what was the question again?
My question is, we have complicated diagrams
Okay.
of the Queensland.
All right.
Do we need to give information of all these things to all the people in the organization?
Right. I get your question. Okay. Thank you. Actually, there's also a need for us to understand what information we need to deliver and who are our audience, right? Can they appreciate the diagram? Can they appreciate the models, right? So, like for example, you don't present the process mining diagram, all of the process flow, to the public. That's your customer, right? Assuming that's your customer. To the public, what will they do with it? What they just need is that you've delivered the service that they requested. That's it, right? But for your BPM or process team, they need that. They need that to analyze where in the process is inefficient. Okay? So it depends who's your audience. All right? Got it? Got it? Answer. Okay.
Last two questions, please. Sige po, sige ma'am. Sige mas yes.
Magandang umaga po.
Morning.
Napakaganda po ng inyong topic. Salamat po.
Thank you.
Malaking tulong. Particularly, we're doing right now ISO certification. So we know naman when we go to ISO, it's really a tedious
I
process.
know. Yes.
At the back of my mind, these wonderful inputs are actually somewhat related, and there are similarities on the processes or the steps. So, as an expert in the field, pwede po ba naming pagsabayin or pagsamahin yung mga actions na pwede namin gawin? Because I believe, I belong to the IT group.
Yes.
And definitely we support the DICT in harmonizing the government spending
Right.
on ICT projects. We don't want waste. We don't want duplication. So that is why solve na ako dun sa enterprise architecture.
Right.
But at the same time, may ISO kami. At the same time, we are submitting budget proposal. So as the CTO, I would like to harmonize. Paano ba pwedeng i-incorporate, integrate itong
Holistic.
mga activities na to na hindi masayang yung
Correct.
pag-attend namin dito.
Very
Salamat po.
You're welcome. That's a very good question. Actually, in my opinion, how will I address it? I just need to know the objective. What is the objective, right? Why, like for example, I'm not questioning your program or activity. Why are we doing ISO, right? I know there's value in ISO, but the question is, why are we doing ISO? Why are we doing CMMI? In my previous company, we did CMMI, which is an American capability maturity model. We did that to market the company. To see if I'm certified, I have more customers, right, from the US. So now the question is, why are you using ISO? If it's a standard, if it's an established standard and mandated that each agency should be ISO, then if it's by policy, then do it. Okay? Execute it. Okay? But then again, you can complement that with BPM or enterprise architecture. Holistically, the way I look at it, enterprise architecture is your enterprise blueprint. High level. Okay? This is your process capability, the capabilities, right? But the question is, how do you execute that to the detail? That's where BPM comes in. BPM bridges the gap. Because EA, it doesn't really hit the ground, right? It's nandun siya, sa taas, right? But the question is, that's why I'm trying to elevate, I'm trying to bridge EA to the actual people working through BPM, right? And building that way, right? So yes, BPM can complement your ISO, right? And then EA can actually even support that as well, right? So there is a touch point between EA and BPM, and that is through business process architecture, the process architecture natin, right? There you go.
Oh, last question, sir. Sige po.
Yes. Another concern is about, I am from the academe actually.
Sure.
I try to fit in the lecture in the academe. I am looking into the business. Unless otherwise we call it education as a business.
Okay.
So it is more of a service. Especially when you speak about loyalty card, how could we do that in education sector?
Very good. Very good. How can we do that in the education loyalty card? Or another flip side of it, I can challenge you, is that the traditional way, like for example, a little off topic, okay? Google. When we search topic, when we search knowledge, we do a search, right? We search. The new trend right now is find, okay? Meaning, if there's a service out there, right, it finds customer. It's not the customer now looking, searching. Because in a way, some customers, they don't know what they don't know. Right? They don't know what they don't know. Right? So meaning, like for in your education profession, what you can do there is that you look for customers. Like for example, let's say you graduate from master's or PhD. After 1 year and a half, the university can still tap onto these students. Like, hey, we have new modules. We have new. So meaning these students can still be part of your network. You push learnings for them, right? You push learning so they can subscribe. Maybe they can still subscribe and pay, and then you have new modules, you deliver it to them. That's part of loyalty, right? They can be part of the loyal, but then loyalty they're in your university, but you need to give them something. There should be value why they need to be part of your ecosystem. You need to build that ecosystem, right? A loyalty card is just a loyalty card, right? But what you need to do is to give them value. So I'm graduate of BPM at QUT, but I need to know what are the new trends the university is offering. But I'm so busy doing my work. But then now the university sends something to me. Hey Gerald, we have a new module. This is a new creative thinking on BPM. Do you want to participate? Yeah. Do you want that we'll send to you the lecture? But of course, you need to pay. But at least now you know, right? Because, again, you don't know what you don't know, right? Information, pushing that to the customers so that they'll know what you are offering is a value proposition. All right? That's one.
Yes, hello. Thank you very much, Sir Gerald. Palakpakan po natin siya. Yeah.